space for people to think more provocatively about what this means and where can we go from here now that race cannot be considered.
I think
and also,
you have absolutely provided a forum in which to do that for those people who will watch this and do so with their family, friends, colleagues, and the like. I want to thank you both for joining us. And for all of you, you can certainly watch Admissions Granted. It's Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern right here on MSNBC. Congratulations, you guys, on this film. And that's going to do it for me on this edition of Alex Witt Reports. See you again tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern. Up next, The Beat Weekend.
Welcome to the Beat Weekend. I'm Ari Melber. Let's get right into the headlines. This is a debate that is certainly memorable, but not in a very happy way. It seems to be another in a series of shared American experiences and memories that feel more infamous than famous, more traumatic than cathartic. And so tonight, together with you right now, as we're still within these first 24 hours of that face-off, we are going to take stock with the evidence, trying to look at the significance and the fallout and the actual real possibilities. We're not going to devolve into or take too much time with the screenplay scenarios, because while there is talk of screenplay style solutions, what matters more for what all of this says about what we're going to do is what's possible. Indeed, the screenplay talk, the fantasy talk, may tell you more about reactions with the Democratic Party. It may matter in that sense, but not in the screenplays coming true. What is true, and what we've seen in this short period between the debate and in these next few weeks of the two-party conventions, is that we have a campaign going on. And it is a campaign where the nominees have been chosen. And today you had a clear indication that against this backdrop, Joe Biden knows that he fell down at this debate because he referred to getting knocked down and how to get back up while speaking in North Carolina.
When you get knocked down, you get back up. I don't walk as easy as I used to. I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. But I know what I do know. I know how to tell the truth. I give you my word as a Biden, I would not be running again if I didn't believe with all my heart and soul I can do this job.
So, first, Biden knows how he did and how it was viewed. He just referred to it. He is the one using the analogy of being knocked to the ground. And second, President Biden, seeing the same coverage and headlines and, yes, palpable concern that everyone else who's paying attention is seeing, is right now today shutting down any talk of a change in this nomination that he already won. Reiterating he's running with his full belief that he's up to the job. Biden's campaign using today's appearance to try to show that in a very real way, that whatever people saw last night, he's out there, he's busy, he's energized, they say, and he's up to the job. And they are arguing that while the debate did start out poorly, they don't even dispute that, they point to the fact that over time he did get in some decent lines.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now.
When he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level.
He was standing with his four-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
You have the morals of an alley cat.
I didn't have sex with a porn star.
Will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely.
I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea, if you lose again, you accepted anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
There were exchanges like that. And yet, that's not what drives the headlines today. And by the way, it does say something when the threats of a failed coup leader and these kind of exchanges about porn stars are not even the top takeaways. Instead, the debate driving fresh questions about President Biden's competence to do the job. The reason for that is how Joe Biden sounded and how he looked. And you could say, yes, that's the optics part. But the reason for that is also how, at times, the logic and coherence of what he was expressing was in doubt. and that may leave a lasting impression.
And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we can do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers. This guy told Trump, do whatever you want. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Now, those moments read as more than verbal gaffes. If you happen to watch any of the ramp-up coverage before this debate, before anyone knew how it would go, you probably heard those references to the high stakes. Obama vet David Plouffe has said debates are the most important 90 minutes in any year-long campaign. On this program, we drew on history and evidence for how debates are those rare moments that reach voters who may tune out months of other campaign business. And what those voters saw, and what prompted even longtime Democratic Biden defenders to muse about, was the rough parts of this debate, musing about the once unthinkable. The AP reports Biden's uneven performance, particularly early, crystallized the concerns of many Americans that at 81, he is too old to serve as president. It sparked a fresh round of calls for the Democrat to consider stepping aside. The New York Times dubbing it a halting and disjointed performance, which prompted a wave of panic among Democrats and reopened discussion of whether he should be the nominee at all, end quote. And nowadays, people don't always watch an entire debate. Heck, people don't always finish the articles that whiz around online. But today, people are seeing the headlines, even in quick snippets. However they get their news, online, social media, clips. The headlines were as tough as those quotes. A fumbling performance by a halting president, a panicking party. The Wall Street Journal and the LA Times openly speculating about replacing Biden, a Democratic insider proclaiming he is, quote, toast. Now, this is not the first time Democratic elites have strong reactions and public anxiety. And it's not the first time even Joe Biden has been counted out. But again, following the evidence tonight, this is measurably wider and deeper than some of those other moments. We checked, and if you look out in swing states, you see some pretty rough local headlines. One of the largest papers in the key state of Nevada, everything that was discussed, all the policies, all the exchanges, their headline for their readers was Biden shows his age. So that's out there. Biden's problems also distracted away from Trump's huge and outrageous lies and claims last night. Now, some other papers around the country, I want to tell you, did hit both candidates. Detroit News talked about how they lobbed insults. In Pennsylvania, key state, you have headlines about them trading barbs. In Colorado, there was a comparison of Biden's fumbles to the implication of Trump's falsehoods. And you can be the judge of whether you'd rather have an occasional fumble or a serial liar. Now, any reliable gauge of how this affects millions of voters, if it affects them at all, will take some time. So you have to keep that in mind with all the snap reactions. But the snap polls, which I wouldn't say are super reliable, do register something, kind of an instant take. And the take was overwhelmingly a view that Trump won. Remember, to get to 67%, that includes a lot of people statistically who have never voted for Trump, who didn't plan to vote for him, who aren't Republicans, saying, well, he won. Anecdotal interviews have also captured a flavor from last night as people felt disappointment with both candidates and thus with the current choice.
Felt terrible for Biden. I mean, that was really sad.
I thought he stumbled. You know what happens? I thought Trump was unhinged for 90 straight minutes.
I was so disappointed in Biden. He was hoarse. He was pale. He looked really frail. And Trump just lied through his teeth the entire time.
Double frustrated.
Double frustrated. How about you? Double cringe. Trump did his litany of lies, and Biden was a disappointment.
We have two candidates that I am embarrassed to say are running for president.
Oh, we're doomed.
Doom and laughing through the concern. Debate watch parties are also a big tradition. Last night, we do have examples where Biden supporters were watching the debate and looking quite despondent as it went on, grinding forward. You can see some of that here. These are not actors. This is not punditry. This is where they have photojournalists watch people watching the debate, and you tend to get a real-time indication. We also have footage, of course, from the Trump watch parties. Trump supporters, celebratory, excited, feeling like they really got the face-off they wanted. Now then, there is that interplay between an event, in this case the debate, and its image, its view, its brand, as they say. It's politics we're dealing with. Reactions and optics, the pictures in people's head, it all does matter. And this is one of those times where the picture was not polarized. It was not two different Americas. It was not really Earth 1 and Earth 2. There was an almost uniform concern, even including from top Democrats in public, that Biden materially hurt his chances, exposed vulnerability on the very thing that, fairly or not, a lot of people, including independents and some Democrats, worry about him. It's a reaction that ranged from an understandable kind of evidence-based concern to outright televised panic.
I do think people feel like that we are confronting a crisis.
One thing that mattered more than anything else tonight, and that was Joe Biden's demeanor.
It's kind of a DEFCON 1 moment.
From the moment he opened his mouth and answering the first question he got, I think America looked and said, this man should not be reelected.
I think the panic had set in. There were going to be discussions about whether he should continue.
They're 3 years apart. They seemed about 30 years apart tonight.
He had to prove to the American people was that he had the energy, he had the stamina, and he didn't do that.
He tragically did not rise to the occasion last night.
It's not just panic, it's pain of what we saw tonight.
Panic and pain, one writer said, if Biden does lose that election, quote, history will record it took just 10 minutes to destroy a presidency. Now, there are Democrats who also question whether Biden should remain on the ticket. There is no mechanism to force a change of the nominee, to force a change of who's on the ticket from the outside. Joe Biden won the race under the rules. He has the delegates. There's also no precedent in history for a change this late. No incumbent president has dropped out of the race so late in the campaign cycle, as the New York Times noted in covering some of those discussions today. The only way that Biden will not be the nominee and on the November ballot is if he decides to break that precedent and drop out. He has not been open to that, and he ruled it out again today. If Joe Biden did abdicate the nomination, that would hand a vacancy and a quite complex, rushed political